One sealed envelope, one missing witness, and a trail of money that could ruin the Brown family forever. From late-night wiretaps to threats in the middle of the night, the truth is about to blow wide open, and not everyone will live through the blowback. Hey everyone, welcome back to Reality Recap. They believed the cameras had stopped rolling. They assumed the drama had faded with the final credits. But behind the stage smiles and those we've moved on interviews, a storm was quietly forming, one that could rip the Brown family's carefully crafted public image to shreds. It didn't start with a heated argument, not even a fight. It started with a number, not an anniversary, not a birthday, a number so gigantic, so inexplicable, that the second it was placed on the table, everything changed. $2 million, not in assets, not in real estate value, debt against a house allegedly used by Kody Brown's best wife, Robyn. Debt so deeply hidden among the family's complicated finances that most members weren't even aware it was there until recently. And who pulled it out into the light? Not a stranger, not a reporter, a blog writer, or some rabid fan. She was Christine Brown, the wife who parted but never went off the radar. Sources inside say she didn't scream. She didn't yell or slam her fists. She didn't have to. Arms folded, a small smile playing on her lips, Christine simply let the figures do the talking. But she also carried another secret one that would have $2 million seem paltry, and she was now ready to utter it aloud. The moment that number was out in the air, the room went cold. One source even said Cody's face could have broken glass. The mortgage documents were legitimate. The signatures were no questions asked, and the fact that Christine just sat there as if she was waiting for this particular moment only turned the knife deeper. In minutes, Cody reportedly progressed from stunned silence to full-blown verbal tempest pacing, gesticulating wildly, spewing pointed questions regarding who signed what and when. The more he questioned her, the more relaxed Christine became. She wasn't merely throwing numbers in the air. This was Christine Brown's chilling math doesn't lie moment, exposing a chilling pattern. That's when whispers started about a quiet, years-long investigation. For ages, Christine had been painted as the emotional one, the quick reactor. But those close to her insist the opposite was true. In a family this large, patience was a weapon, and she had mastered it. Years before, she'd started noting things mentally, jotted down numbers, taken pictures of loose papers, cached receipts that surfaced on the kitchen counter. It wasn't snooping, it was observing, and the image she constructed was incriminating. Not against the law, not yet, but sufficient to make everybody wonder what they'd been informed about the so-called family collective pot. Her forbearance was rewarded the day that mortgage records came to light. That $2 million mortgage against Robyn's house wasn't a surprise. It was an unexpected puzzle piece falling so neatly into place. The actual threat to Cody wasn't the cash itself, it was the perception. Being $2 million in the hole meant awkward queries from relatives, supporters, and potentially lenders. And if Christine slipped this information to the correct individual, the damage could be devastating. She wasn't finished yet. Christine alleged more, and what she said next put the $2 million in perspective. Her tone remained even, nearly relaxed, as she added a new term to the equation: transfers. Within a household such as theirs, that could be anything groceries, mortgage. But Christine's interpretation had a much darker connotation. She said she was following close to $497,000 flowing through a PayPal account connected to someone nobody in the family knew, a name associated with a minute Flagstaff LLC that had no discernible business, no customers, no public presence, but lots of high-end purchases, high-end furniture, private school fees, designer handbags, and all shipped to addresses going back to Robyn's residence. Christine never actually accused anyone. She didn't have to. Her stare rested on Robyn just long enough for the insinuation to ignite the room. Cody's protest came quickly and boisterously, claiming the money was misconstrued, misrepresented, whatever. But Christine went on, offering timelines, receipts, and spikes in spending that coincided precisely with Robyn's family rhythms. The older children shared knowing glances, Mom always said. One of them grumbled. Another rolled her eyes so far back the atmosphere in the room shifted. Money was no longer the issue. All these years of passive anger suddenly bursting out into the open. Robyn attempted to justify herself, insisting each transfer had been agreed on by the family. Christine's response was like a razor. If it was approved, then why wasn't it discussed? Next was her second play, property records. While surfing through the county assessor's database on autopilot, she'd seen something strange. Names and trusts belonging to Cody and Robyn that didn't even appear in the family's publicly listed assets. Among them, a 3-bedroom Sedona vacation house purchased straight out, no mortgage supposedly funded with cash that equaled the PayPal transactions dollar for dollar. She had the receipts, the bills, and even an address in Flagstaff where expensive things had been shipped, a high-dollar dining table worth more than some people's cars. By this time, even Meri had leaned forward, her normally unemotional face starting to crack. The only sound was Christine's soothing, steady voice. Next was the fuzzy but unmistakable photo of Cody at a high-end SUV lot. The car, Christine claimed, was owned by the same trust that owned the Sedona cabin, bought days after telling the family to make do with less. If this had ever been about trust, it had now become about survival. Christine's last disclosures took things even further. Offshore LLCs, raw land purchases, shell companies, 6-figure wire transfers to out-of-state accounts, and even one submitted outside the U.S. She said the patterns were so suspicious, the IRS would be salivating if they ever saw them. And then she made the biggest hit of all, a letter from the Arizona Department of Revenue listing discrepancies in reported income. Not a rumor, not guesswork, a state-level probe. By the time Christine disclosed the secret 40-acre ranch outside Flagstaff, bought in cash and subsequently leveraged to secure a $2 million private equity loan, the room had run out of air. She said repayments were being siphoned from accounts linked to all of them, whether they liked it or not, and if the lender called in the debt prematurely, it would annihilate them. Christine sat back, folders still closed, eyes fixed on Cody. "If you find the IRS intimidating," she said, "wait until you hear what the state's after." And with that, she left it hanging, not with answers, but with the shadow of something much worse lurking just beyond. This bombshell was dropped under the premise. Cameras were off. They thought the drama was 6 feet under, but one figure pulled it all back to light. $2 million, not assets, not worth. Debt allegedly secured against the property of Kody Brown's so-called favorite wife, Robyn. And the story hadn't broken in a tabloid or spilled through rumors. It broke from Christine Brown herself. Serene, unfazed, with evidence that couldn't be spun away. If whispers are true, she wasn't even shocked by the figure she'd been anticipating this all along. Cody's response was apocalyptic. A silence burst, a pacing back and forth, then a series of questions. Who agreed to what? When? Why didn't you tell me? But Christine remained unfazed, arms crossed, a beatific smile on her face before she dropped the sentence that would find its way into every Brown family group chat. Math doesn't lie. It was the initial blow in a war of financiers in the making, a slow-motion, stealthy probe. For years, Christine had been written off as emotional, hot-headed, easily provoked, but those who knew her best knew the truth. She had learned years earlier that patience could cut deeper than outrage. Even before she was actually divorced, she had been mentally documenting, not sneaking around, just observing. Every stray receipt that came across the kitchen counter, every unpaid bill, every cryptic delivery that appeared at Robyn's door. In a family so big, funds traveled in mad circles. But Christine started noticing patterns, accounts never going low when others were skimping payments not aligning with the planned joint budget. Her set of scribbles wasn't an official audit, mere scraps of paper, printouts, and screenshots, but collectively they painted a picture. And the conclusion wouldn't be pretty for Cody or Robyn. That $2 million mortgage was merely the beginning of the puzzle. Next was the PayPal trail, nearly $497,000, siphoned through an account by an unknown name connected to a small Flagstaff LLC that had no customers, no public business, no obvious function other than to spend. Christine outlined it all, as a prosecutor would: luxury sofas, private school fees, designer merchandise, all delivered to Robyn's address. She did not need to speak Robyn's name. A look in Robyn's direction did all the speaking. Cody resisted immediately, asserting the payments were misinterpreted, but Christine maintained her lighthearted demeanor, illustrating the way each PayPal payment was coordinated with delivery dates and spending peaks. The older children looked at each other, one grumbling, Mom always said. Decades of suspicion had just been validated. Christine wasn't finished. Out came the property records. She'd initially begun screening the county assessor's database simply to monitor the family's common land, but she discovered names and trusts connected to Cody and Robyn that weren't present on a family's formal lists. A paid-for 3-bedroom vacation house in Sedona, no mortgage. Christine said the payment tracked nearly identically with the PayPal spending calendar, and then there was the P.O. box, the address where designer purses, fine electronics, and that fancy dining table that cost more than most people's cars arrived, and then the photo of Cody at a high-end SUV lot, documents in hand. The vehicle, Christine asserted, was part of the same trust that owned the Sedona cabin, and was bought mere days after he'd informed the family that they were going to have to cut back on expenses. The Offshore link, Christine's second book of secrets, changed the atmosphere from tight to outright perilous. She explained that she had discovered 3 LLCs formed over the last 4 years, none among the family's joint assets. 2 of them were registered in states with loose disclosure laws, and one wasn't even in the United States. You don't go offshore unless you're hiding something big, she stated. The paper trail, she claimed, showed 6-figure wire transfers in perfectly rounded amounts, another glaring red flag for anyone tracking financial irregularities. Robyn grumbled something about private investors, but Christine waved it off and swooped in to 2 tracts of raw land bought under a shell corporation that collapsed after a single year. The dates of the purchases fell in perfectly, with the sale of a Utah property Cody had announced barely broke even. Then came the state audit, the envelope from the Arizona Department of Revenue. Christine described it as referencing discrepancies in income reported in a specific tax year. She initially thought it must have been a clerical mistake until she noticed the year referenced was one of the questionable LLC transfers. The state only sends letters if they already have the numbers, she cautioned. They are just trying to see if your story is the same as their story. 2 months after that, a second letter landed on the doorstep, this time not for Cody, but for an LLC. The registered agent, a cousin of Robyn's, the same individual connected to other shell companies. Then was the Flagstaff acreage, Christine's trump card to date. A 40-acre parcel situated just beyond Flagstaff, bought up front for cash. The following day, a $2 million private equity loan was taken against it. The lender was not a bank, but a short-term, high-cost operation, the sort you visit when you would prefer that banks avoid asking too many questions. Christine matched the loan documents with deposits into the LLC account. Great big clumps of the money, she said, disappeared into state transfers. When you lend $2 million, she explained, someone owes you an explanation of where it went. And the repayments? Drawn from accounts against the family's combined assets, i.e., they were all on the hook whether they realized it or not. That was the turning point for Meri. Suppose the lender calls it back early, she said. Silence. No response. Christine shut her folder but did not look away from Cody. If you thought the IRS was scary, she said, just wait until you hear what the state's looking for. She didn't explain. She had no need to. The oppressive silence that followed was because every single person in that room now shared the same truth. This was no longer about money anymore. This was survival. And then there were the mysterious withdrawals in cash. Bank records indicated more than $78,000 in cash withdrawn over 4 months. Christine's voice remained firm as she recited the dates, the initials of the teller, the ATM camera timestamp. Each withdrawal occurred within days of a big family fight, and each time the funds disappeared into thin air. Christine didn't accuse, she didn't need to. The pattern was the accusation. Then Robyn's jewelry business was called out. The family's long-lauded My Sister Wife's Closet brand had long seemed inactive, or so the world thought. But Christine provided merchant account documents indicating occasional spates of high-dollar transactions with no shipping records for any merchandise. Instead, the payments went to a new account in an LLC where Robyn was the only signatory. Not fraud, not yet, anyway, but the math didn't work, and Christine had an idea why. And then the ghost credit card. She laid out a final document on the table, a platinum credit card statement with 3 states' worth of purchases over 7 days, high-end hotels in Vegas, high-fashion boutiques in Scottsdale, a spa retreat resort in Sedona. Total, $18,762. The kicker? The account was under Cody's name, but the receipts bore Robyn's name. Next was the Flagstaff Realtor's admission. An insider, who was later identified as a realtor, indicated to Christine that a cash buyer with a familiar TV last name had offered them money behind closed doors to buy additional property at above market value in exchange for utter confidentiality. Christine lacked evidence of a completed sale, but merely the request is telling of the intent to conceal more assets. And lastly, the Coyote Pass connection. The Coyote Pass ranch of 40 acres was the family's supposed shared fantasy. But Christine discovered surveyor reports indicating Cody had searched out dividing the land into private parcels, weeks before he informed the wives of joint ownership. This was not merely betrayal, it was deliberate deception. That was Janelle's breaking point. She had remained largely quiet during Christine's disclosures until she saw her own retirement account in the stack, cut by $62,000 with no note. Her voice trembled. Was my money used to retire that $2 million loan? Cody did not respond. He did not have to. And then there was the lawyer's threat, a letter from a law firm in Phoenix to the Brown Family Trust, threatening legal action in a matter of hours over hidden assets. Christine read the letter aloud, her tone slow and razor-sharp. This, she said, is not an official charge. But if still no reply, the issue would get kicked directly to the Attorney General's office. Everyone's gaze in the room fell on Cody and remained fixed. The clock on tax continued to tick. The state's investigation wasn't waiting. Christine disclosed that a vital deadline to file was just 43 days away. Fines could result in liens, wage garnishment, and even property confiscation. Not a maybe, a countdown. During Christine's next disclosure, Cody's phone rang. On speaker, the room fell silent. The voice didn't bother with a greeting. It simply said, "They know about the offshore account. We're out of time." The name behind the voice? No one expected it. Christine pushed one last envelope across the table. Within, a notarized trust document. The signature on it caused even Meri to gasp. Not a family member, but a far-off Utah friend with no professional tie. That trust had title to 2 Arizona properties, both directly adjacent to Robyn's house. Meri stood speechless, took her coat, and left. The slam of the front door was more memorable than any argument that day. It was the sound of a person who had set her mind. For her, it was over. Christine's final warning had been whispered, but with the power of every paper receipt and unresolved question, if the law doesn't get you, the truth will. No one stirred, no one spoke. They all knew one thing: this was not the end. It was just the start of a war. Christine wasn't alone in her possession of evidence. A former family aide had quietly forwarded a flash drive marked, "For your eyes only." Scanned checks, wire receipts, and an audio message from Cody speaking of keeping it off the books were inside. The date? 3 weeks prior. The Las Vegas connection emerged when Christine saw a $47,500 cashier's check to a Nevada LLC. That LLC, operating under an alias, had purchased a vacation home off the Las Vegas Strip. The kicker? Listing photos indicated Robyn's own furnishings in the background. And then there was the court clerk's after-hours tip. Christine's phone rang with an anonymous message. Flagstaff County Courthouse, Civil Division, case number FH21 63 and 89. It was sealed, but the docket heading in itself was chilling. Petition for emergency asset protection. Excavating further into the family trust records, Christine discovered a $280,000 loan in Cody's name that was a personal loan. The payoff terms were harsh, and no one had made a payment in more than a year. The lender could foreclose any time. At 11:47 p.m. one evening, a neighbor's doorbell camera caught Robyn leaving her house, briefcase in hand. She wasn't walking alone. The man walking alongside her had previously been under investigation for white-collar crimes in a different state. Christine then disclosed the missing tax refund. A 2-year-old joint return had been submitted, but the $29,000 plus refund never reached the family account. IRS records indicated it went directly into a private account in Robyn's name. She also printed a string of international wire confirmations, and $312,000 wired through a Cayman Islands bank. Each memo line said consulting fee. No consulting had ever been performed. The Phoenix law office sent back a second letter, final notice. The Browns had 7 working days to completely reveal their finances, or risk civil seizure and potential criminal referral. For the first time in years, Janelle raised her voice. "If my kids' college funds are gone, I'll call the Attorney General myself." Cody tried to calm her, but she didn't budge. Her loyalty had been tested one time too many. Christine's final card was pulled out of her bag, a fat sealed envelope. "This goes to the press if anything happens to me." No one had the nerve to ask what was in it. The feel of it hung there like a loaded pistol. 2 days after, Christine accessed the group accounting program and froze. Whole sections of purchase history were missing. Not erased, deleted, as if they'd never been there. Only Cody still had admin access. Then there was the unopened envelope on Janelle's doorstep. In it were color photocopied versions of 2 forged signatures, hers and Christine's, authorizing the $85,000 withdrawal from a joint account 6 months prior. The following morning, a bank letter arrived certified. 2 Coyote Pass houses were now in pre-foreclosure due to outstanding mortgages. Christine and Janelle were informed years before that those mortgages had long since been paid off. A tip from an old acquaintance finally led Christine to a small storage unit just outside Flagstaff, owned by Robyn. Inside the unit, unopened shipping crates packed with luxury handbags, designer trinkets, and electronic items, all still bearing their price stickers. The Nevada subpoena, a certified messenger, served it without notice. A subpoena from Clark County, Nevada. It requested financial information for a family-owned LLC connected with the Las Vegas vacation rental, with a threatening warning of possible fraud charges. The security tape Christine got surveillance video from a Flagstaff bank, documenting Cody taking $9,500 in cash in one visit. The date? The very same day the family said their joint account was compromised. The silent bank manager, when Christine confronted the branch manager, he wouldn't speak on the record. But off the record, he admitted, "Let's just say this wasn't the first time I've seen withdrawals that didn't have all the necessary signatures." The countdown letter, a last warning from the law firm of Phoenix, came only 48 hours. If the Browns did not produce full financial records, their next move would be to put each allegation before the public in open court. Janelle's turning point that night, she silently filled 2 suitcases. She did not say goodbye to Cody, only to Christine, in a long, speechless hug that said more than she could have expressed. The midnight phone call at 2:14 a.m., the phone at Christine's house rang. "Hello," she replied. A menacing voice. "We know what you have. We know where you live. Drop it, or it won't just be money you lose." The phone was dead. Christine was standing in the blackness, fingers wrapped around the sealed envelope as if it alone held her up. The missing witness, the ex-family assistant who'd sent Christine the flash drive, ceased taking calls. Her apartment remained vacant, mail accumulating in the hallway. The landlord stated she'd departed abruptly, no forwarding address. The attorneys cautioned meeting in private with the Phoenix attorneys. Christine watched them push a 1-page draft across the table. An initial criminal complaint naming Cody and Robyn as prime respondents. "Once we file this," the lead lawyer said, "there's no turning back." The sealed envelope opens. Christine finally broke her own rule. In her bedroom, out of sight of her father and brother, she opened it. Inside, handwritten notes, screenshots of encrypted chats, and photos of hidden safes. One photo showed Cody in a hotel room surrounded by piles of cash. Tucked inside was a plain white FBI business card. Special Agent D. Harland, Financial Crimes Division. On the back, in blue ink, "Call me when you're ready to end this." The wiretap suspicion every call Christine made came with faint static and soft clicks. A tech-savvy friend confirmed it. Her phone was tapped. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. The leak to the press, a tabloid blared, "Reality TV family's darkest secret, $1 million missing." No names yet, but every detail fitted Christine's evidence, including the Las Vegas property. The ambush by the law, 2 men in uniform delivered a cease and desist letter to Christine. It amounted to defamation and ordered her to desist from propagating falsehoods. The signature, Robyn's lawyer. The public outcry in the middle of a neighborhood gathering, someone shouted at Cody on camera. "Where's the money, Cody?" The video went viral in hours, tens of thousands asking questions. The last ultimatum the Phoenix attorneys gave Christine until noon on Friday: hand everything over to federal authorities or go away forever. With less than 36 hours left, the gravity of the choice hung heavy. The choice on her kitchen table, Christine clutched the flash drive in one hand, the FBI card in the other. The phone rang, the same low voice. "If you make that call, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." Her hand shook. Justice and survival had never hung so precariously in the balance. The secret backup she recalled suddenly. Months before, she had mailed a duplicate of the flash drive to a cousin in Utah, in case. Her cousin still possessed it, unopened. The silent drive, Christine and Janelle traveled to Phoenix in near silence, glancing in the rearview mirror. A black SUV followed them from the time they departed Flagstaff. The parking garage trap pulling into the law firm's garage, the SUV came in right behind. 2 men in dark clothes stepped out, blocking the exit. "Hand over the drive and you'll forget this ever happened." The FBI reveal. Before they could advance further, a third car sounded, unmarked but with red and blue lights flashing in the grille. Special Agent Harland emerged, badge held high. The men ran away on foot. The federal transfer in the conference room of the firm, Christine pushed the flash drive to Harland. "It's all here. Everything." He nodded. "Then this is officially a federal case." The arrest warrants met one. By Friday night, a federal magistrate had signed 2 sealed warrants, one for Cody, one for Robyn. Charges: wire fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. The knock at midnight. At 12:04 a.m., federal agents raided Robyn's house. Neighbors recorded her being taken away in handcuffs, shouting, "It was all a mistake, Cody on the lam." Cody wasn't present. A bee on the lookout had gone statewide. Whispers circulated he was making for the Nevada border. The courtroom chaos. 3 weeks later, the trial reached court. News vans lined the street. Christine sat at the prosecution's table, looking coldly as marshals led in Cody, thinner, bearded, yet still defiant. The surprise twist ending, the prosecution put their first witness on the stand. And it wasn't Janelle or Christine. It was the old family assistant, alive, well, and walking to the stand. She fumbled with a stack of ledgers and leaned into the mic. "This is only the beginning.